Every city hides a legend, but in Lima, there's one that refuses to die. It comes from Barranco, a coastal district known for its bohemian nights, old bridges, and whispering sea winds. Locals say that when the fog rises from the cliffs and the street lamps begin to flicker, a woman dressed in black appears along the empty roads. Her skin is pale, her eyes hollow, and her presence suffocating. She doesn't beg for money or ask for help. She simply raises her arm, asking for a ride. At first glance, she seems harmless, a lost passenger, a lonely woman heading home. But every driver who's ever picked her up says the same thing. Halfway through the ride, something changes. Her voice drops, the air turns cold, and before they reach their destination, she's gone. They call her La Mujer Vampiro de Barranco, the woman vampire of Barranco. Tonight, you'll hear 3 true testimonies from those who crossed her path, 3 men who swore they'd never drive again after what they saw. The first story dates back to 1992. Lima was quieter then. No GPS, no cell phones, just long nights and the sound of radios humming old ballads. Jose, a 34-year-old taxi driver, worked the night shift to support his 2 kids. He knew every corner of Barranco, every shortcut, every shadow. That night, the fog was so thick he could barely see 10 meters ahead. He decided to take one last passenger before heading home. At around 1:30 a.m., near Avenida Bolognesi, he spotted a woman under a flickering lamppost. She wore a white dress, long and damp, clinging to her body as if she had just stepped out of the ocean. Her black hair covered most of her face, but he could see her lips, a faint shade of red that seemed to glow in the dark. She raised her hand slowly. Jose hesitated. Something deep inside him screamed not to stop, but he was tired, and a fare was a fare. He pulled over. "Good evening, señorita. Where are you heading?" Her voice was soft, almost too soft. "To La Encantada de Villa," she whispered, a distant neighborhood near Carrillos. That was far, the kind of trip that could double his pay. He nodded and unlocked the door. She sat in the back seat silently. As he started driving, the only sounds were the hum of the engine and the sea crashing against the cliffs nearby. After a few minutes, she spoke again. "Do you believe in vampires?" Jose forced a laugh. "Vampires? No, señora, those are old stories." The woman leaned forward. Her breath was cold. "You should," she said, "because I'm hungry." The words crawled into his chest. He glanced at the rearview mirror and froze. The reflection staring back at him wasn't human. Her face was gray, her eyes pitch black, and her mouth twisted into a monstrous smile. Long, dark teeth shimmered in the mirror's dim light. Jose slammed the brakes. The car screeched and stopped in the middle of the road. He turned around and she was gone. Only the back door was wide open and the seat was wet. He reached back and touched it. It wasn't water. It was warm, sticky blood. He ran out of the taxi, heart pounding, and didn't return until sunrise. When he came back with police officers, they found nothing unusual except for a dark stain on the back seat that couldn't be cleaned. Jose quit his night shift 2 days later. To this day, drivers say that same light on Bolognesi still flickers, and sometimes in the fog, a woman in white stands waiting, asking for a ride to La Encantada de Villa. Our second story comes from Raul, another night driver who often worked around Barranco's main bridge, El Puente de los Suspiros. He was known for being fearless. While other drivers avoided the area after midnight, Raul would laugh and say, "Ghosts don't pay the fare, so they can't ride with me." But one night, that joke stopped being funny. It was 3 a.m. when Raul finished dropping off a passenger near Miraflores and decided to take one more trip before heading home. The fog was heavier than usual. As he turned down Avenida San Martin, he saw a woman waving for a taxi. She wore a black coat and carried a small purse. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were fixed directly on him. She got in without a word and whispered, "To Surco, please." Raul nodded and started driving. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The air inside the car felt colder and colder. Raul turned off the AC, but the chill remained. Then, she said something that made his heart stop. "Raul, do you always drive this late?" He froze. "Excuse me? How do you know my name?" She didn't reply. Her reflection in the mirror stared straight ahead, completely still, not blinking, not moving. Raul gripped the steering wheel tighter. The radio, without warning, filled with static. Then, a low voice came through, the same voice as the woman's, whispering words he couldn't understand. He slammed on the brakes and turned around. The back seat was empty. The door was closed. But the smell of cold earth filled the car. And then, just above his shoulder, a whisper. "If you stop, you'll see me." Raul screamed and floored the accelerator. He drove until the first hint of dawn touched the sky. When he finally stopped at a gas station, the attendant asked if he was okay and pointed to the back seat. On the leather, written in what looked like soot, were 4 words: "See you next ride." Raul quit driving at night permanently. Years later, when asked about the incident, he said, "It wasn't a dream. I felt her hand on my neck. She was real, but not alive." By the mid-1990s, the story of the woman vampire of Barranco had become famous enough to catch the attention of journalists. One of them was Carlos Valle, a young reporter known for investigating supernatural stories across Lima. He worked for a small TV production and claimed he wanted to separate myth from truth. In a recorded interview years later, Valle said, "I thought it was a story for bored drivers, nothing more. But I was wrong." Determined to find evidence, he spent 3 nights in Barranco near La Ermita Church, close to the Puente de los Suspiros, the heart of the legend. He carried a small camera, an audio recorder, and a flashlight. Locals warned him not to stay past 2 a.m., but he refused to leave. On the 3rd night, as fog rolled in from the sea, an elderly woman selling picaronis approached him. She told him quietly, "That woman isn't new. She's been here since before my grandmother was born. Every generation she takes men who don't believe in her." Valle smiled politely, thanked her, and stayed. Around 2:30 a.m., the sound of footsteps echoed near the bridge. He raised his camera. There, under the old street lamp, stood a woman, tall, pale, dressed in black. He called out, "Señorita, excuse me." She turned slowly. Valle took a step forward. Through the lens, her face seemed blurred, like smoke. But when he lowered the camera, she was clear, and staring straight at him. Then she whispered something. "Carlos." He froze. How could she know his name? Before he could react, her skin began to change, turning gray, tight against her bones. Her eyes, 2 red points glowing in the dark. Her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, showing sharp blackened teeth. The streetlight flickered. Valle dropped the camera and ran toward the church. He later claimed that the sound followed him, footsteps that didn't touch the ground, laughter echoing through the mist. When locals found him at dawn, he was shaking, pale, and unable to speak. His recorder was still running. The final words captured before the tape cut were a woman's whisper, "I'll be waiting by the bridge." Valle quit journalism soon after. He never publicly released the footage or the recording. Some say he moved away from Lima entirely. But residents of Barranco insist that every few months, especially in July when the fog is thickest, someone hears a woman's laughter near the Puente de los Suspiros, followed by the faint clicking of a camera shutter. 3 men, 3 testimonies, all different backgrounds, different nights, but the same presence. A woman who appears on the roads of Barranco, asking for a ride, speaking your name, or calling you toward the bridge. Skeptics say it's mass hysteria, an urban myth. But even the police have reports from the early 1990s mentioning drivers abandoning their taxis, claiming to see a passenger vanish in the mirror. Newspapers covered it briefly, calling it collective imagination. Yet the stories haven't stopped. Taxi drivers still refuse to pick up lone women near the cliffs after midnight. Some even turn off their lights when passing Avenida Bolognesi, fearing they might see her. And those who have dared to look closely swear that her reflection doesn't match her movements, as if two different beings share the same face. The legend of the woman vampire of Barranco has survived for over 3 decades, because those who've met her don't tell their stories for fame, they tell them as warnings. So if you ever find yourself driving through Barranco at night, and you see a lone woman standing under the fog, don't stop. Don't roll down your window. Don't listen if she says your name, because those who do never finish their ride. Even now, under the moonlight, the Puente de los Suspiros still echoes with sounds that shouldn't exist. Footsteps with no source, soft laughter, and the faint smell of wet earth mixed with iron. Locals say that's how you know she's near. The woman of Barranco doesn't hunt every night, she waits, she chooses. And when she does, the city itself seems to hold its breath. Because every legend begins with fear, but this one never ended.